Welcome to the Daily Bard, your hub for everything music. Today's episode is brought to you by my Québec City. My name is Jacob Rodrigue, and I'm a fan of everything music. With me here today is Julien Valois Dobbie, a Quebec musician and teacher. In today's episode, we'll be learning a little bit about Mr. Dobbie, how he came to be in the music industry, and his experiences in it. By the end of this episode, you'll know what it means to be a musician, and hopefully you'll be inspired to kickstart your own music career. So, Julien, thank you for being here today. Before we start talking about the music industry and networking, how about you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name is Julien Valois Dobbie. I've been a musician since high school, probably. And that's pretty much it. I'm a guitar player. I teach also guitar lessons.
So, you started in high school, you said. How did that happen? Did you start a band with some friends?
Well, music in my life started before high school, but I was not a musician. Okay. My father was studying music and history of music at l'Université Laval. So there was lots of classical music, and also in the 80s, my parents would buy lots of vinyls. And so I was listening to a bunch of pop and rock music of the time, and also classical music. So it sort of entered my ears and my mind through osmosis. And afterwards, when I went to high school, when I started high school, my parents were wondering what to do with me, because they knew I could be good in school, but I would lose interest if I was not stimulated enough. And I had a friend who was going, we knew he was going in a music program in high school. So they thought, well, it's pretty natural. I mean, there's music at home, and I was always interested. Right. I didn't know I wanted a career back then, but so that's sort of how it started. I met a group of friends in high school in music class, and I also met another group of friends in college in music classes. The most important thing that probably I've gotten from that experience is my friends, the people I met, whom I still sometimes work with. Of course, we use the same language to communicate musical ideas. But right. And then even after college, I was not sure I was cut out to be professional musicians, because I was always, in my mind, there were always greater players, and I was very nervous on stage. That took a while to tame.
I mean, it's a big thing, right? Everywhere you go, you always feel like there's someone better than you, right? And I'm sure that had to be hard, especially for someone trying to make their career in music.
Well, you know what was different at the time, though, it was pre-YouTube. And even if it was, even if, I don't know if you remember the first years of YouTube, but around 2004 and 5, there was not that much content. These days, the good thing is, whatever you want to learn, you can watch someone do it and explain it to you. So that's true in music. The bad thing is, I guess, if you want to call it that, is you'll always find a bunch of kids better than you are online. Right. At the time, it was much more local. I was like, when I had a technique down, let's say I was very focused on fast picking. I didn't know people who could fast pick like that, really. So when I got somewhat good at it, I thought, hey, maybe I'm on to something, because I don't know many people who can do that. If I had YouTube at the time, I would have been like, well, everybody and their dog can do that. But
I always see child prodigies on there. It's crazy.
Yeah, but it's so different world, all in all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now that you are making music as a career, what are you doing right now? Like, what are your current projects?
All right. Well, obviously, COVID has changed a few things, and I think we're going to go into that later. Yeah. I mainly play cover music, meaning bar bands, restaurants, and also corporate events and private parties and weddings. Oh, cool. I also like to play music. I've played music in original material bands, and I've had a few of those independent bands. That's a whole other issue, another discussion. And also, what I've been trying to do more of is to play music for singer-songwriters instead of just cover material in bars.
Right. See. Ah, that's awesome. And, how would you say that your work changed? Because you were saying that over time the industry's changed, but during the pandemic and when it started specifically, how did it change? What
Well, it
things did you have
stopped.
to do? It stopped completely?
Yeah, and today actually marks the 2-year anniversary of my last gig pre-pandemic. What
Really?
happened was I was playing a trio. Was it a trio? No, it was a full band, but cover stuff in Quebec City.
Okay.
And so I had 4 gigs that week. Played a duo on Wednesday. I was around Montreal playing music with Alicia Deschênes, who's a singer-songwriter
Hmm.
in the South Shore of Montreal. And we were not sure that that gig was going to take place
Oh,
because
wow.
the government was talking about closing everything.
Hmm.
It ended up taking place, and it was weird because it was not full, but a bunch of people. It was sort of a winter storm energy, like a bunch of kids. It was
Right.
something was brewing, and you could see it. People were dancing, but we were all sort of worried. And
Right.
then I had a country gig on the following Saturday, the next day, March 14th. That got canceled. And then I was looking at my calendar and I was like, maybe this gig will stay, maybe this one will stay. And they all got canceled one after the other. So the first part of the pandemic was actually, looking back on it, kind of fun in a way. It was
Really?
stressful. It was stressful, but I was home with 2 kids. Schools were closed. So
Hmm.
we were sort of in summer camp mode.
Hmm.
Afterwards, so in the summertime, we could play a few places outside, meaning that yeah, I just had a couple of gigs and that didn't sustain me at all. So
Really?
first year mainly was government subsidies, like a PCU at the time,
Hmm.
and I also teach, but my music school closed for a while, so that was weird.
Yeah.
Then second year, last year, summer 2021.
Hmm.
I actually worked a whole lot. Not big pays, mind you, because
Really?
all the weddings and corporate things were off. And
Yeah.
they kept being postponed. So a wedding in 2020 became a wedding in 2021, became a wedding in this year in 2022, maybe.
Yeah. To be
Um,
determined. We
yeah,
still don't know.
but fortunately enough, I made a few calls and I ended up working a lot and outside in restaurants.
Hmm.
So I made lots of shows last year, and also the other big part of the puzzle is there's a bunch of hotels in Quebec, in Quebec City,
Hmm.
which
Yeah.
are the les hôtels Jarreau.
Okay.
Jarreau being Jacques Robitaille, the owner.
Oh, okay.
So there are four hotels. So the Québécois, Plaza, Place Royale, and Hôtel Québec.
Hmm.
Uh, they all have this sort of um, garden, and around there. They have a pool and they have balconies. So
Right.
a bunch of rooms have balconies. Above the pool or a garden area, something like that. So they all of the four those four hotels actually built a
Yeah.
stage and rented up equipment and said, you know what, we are going to host shows.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, those are
So
like the perfect places for gigs.
well, not sound wise, but in the pandemic, they were the only, obviously the best and the only places.
Yeah.
So because you can't play outside in the wintertime. So that was great. And we played a whole bunch. And so I stayed active with my trio, my acoustic trio, which is my main gig for the past few years.
Okay.
And so that kept us well in shape and fed also.
Hmm.
And then the music schools started again. And then another thing which I have not spoken about is since September 2021, for the first time in my life,
Yeah.
I have a job. I never had a job outside of my teachings. I ended up actually teaching an English class, believe it or not. We sort of have to talk about the different opportunities that exist in music, broadly speaking. And that's often a question I get asked. People think that music is super hard, which it can be depending on what you want to do exactly. If you want to live off your own music, your own creations, that's a thing. If you just want to be a musician and you're open to a bunch of different opportunities, then it's much easier, much easier. Well, because there's many possibilities. I play bar gigs. You don't have to play bar gigs. I know people who only do corporate events. So you find a group of people who want to do that. You invest in that, or you just move to Montreal and do so. Because in Montreal there's much less bar gigs, but there's quite a few corporate, event focused bands.
Right.
You can go on cruises and you could do a bunch of things. You can also do jingles. So if you want to just stay home, write music on your computer and sell that music, you could do that for, well, movies might seem like a stretch, but publicity, sure. Well, long story short, a bunch of things you can do as a musician. So what I would say to kids is, first and foremost, do music because you like music. I get lots of students who don't seem to know why they are in the guitar class, probably because their parents booked them some classes just to make them do something. Right. I'm always surprised when I ask, what do you listen to the student? Because I always tailor my my classes towards wants and needs and the tastes of the student. It's not a very formal class like in the classical setting. So I always ask, what do you listen to? And I'm always very surprised when I get the answer, when students answer, but nothing really. I don't listen to music.
Really?
Like,
why
are you in the music class then? But outside of that, yeah, do it for yourself. Investigate what you love. And then if you want, you can go to music school. And then if you really, really want it, work hard and try to surround yourself with people who want it as much as you want it, and who all have an equal desire to work hard towards a common goal.
Yeah, big part of making a career in music is the networking aspect. So really surrounding yourself with people who have those common interests and want to support you and support themselves as well, right?
There's two subjects maybe in networking. I said earlier I wanted to play more with singer-songwriters, and I know why I don't as much. Okay. It's because I don't go out. And there are certain spots like District on Saint-Joseph. That's a bar where every week there was a big jam hosted by cool musicians from Quebec. It was a bit jazzy, but really you could do whatever you want. So there would be at least one guest a week, a different guest. All weeks would be a bit different. And then after maybe one set, I don't know, there would always be a set where you could just go on stage and play whatever. Okay. And lots of musicians would go there to listen, to watch, to play, and to just hang out. And really a big part of networking is just musicians hanging out and getting to know each other. And then if you need someone for a gig, let's say you need a drummer, you could say, well, hey, I met this drummer at that place. He was cool and he played well on stage. Maybe I could give him a call. So that networking is very valuable. The other networking is business networking, meaning if you want to work with bookers, then bookers need to know you exist. If you want to do original material, then you have to meet managers. And if you don't have a manager, then you have to, do all the paperwork and all the call everywhere, the venues yourselves. And so that kind of networking is more removed from music, but it's a very important part also.
What do you think would be your plans for the future?
Personally, it's what I'm doing now. I've always thought of being in high school as sort of a backup. I am pushing the idea of playing with singer-songwriters. I have something coming up, actually.
That's awesome, Julien. I mean, I really had fun hearing about your experiences in the industry and about networking, and I learned a lot, honestly. I was curious, and I'm really happy about what I learned.
Well, I'm glad.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Dobbie's insight has shown us all that the music industry can be quite an interesting thing. Young musicians have ample opportunities within it and potential to make some incredible connections. We hope that today's episode has inspired some of you out there to start your venture into the music industry, or at least get back to practicing. That's all for today's episode of The Daily Bard. Tune in tomorrow for another episode brought to you by My Québec City. Thanks for listening.